Hey everyone, welcome back to the Glass Seats podcast. This is our show where two hockey aficionados discuss their perspectives on headlines surrounding the NHL, including recent stories, game highlights, league culture, and other topics trending amongst the fans. This is Viddy.
And my name is Mrinal, and this week in hockey, Erik Karlsson, still a San Jose Shark.
Yep. We got you there.
I ended last episode with hoping for a trade that week,
Yeah.
and it still hasn't happened.
No.
And I'm disappointed.
Are you worried?
Yeah, I'm a little worried.
Yeah.
And, I keep hearing, it's Pittsburgh or Carolina, right? So there's two teams that want an offensive defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, there's three options on the market. There's Erik Karlsson, there's a rumored trade for Tony DeAngelo, and Matt Dumba is still a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in shit or get off the pot territory here.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to do it quick, they're going to move on to someone else, right?
Yeah. Or they're just going to take their sweet time and try to find the perfect deal or try to find a Matt Duchene situation, suddenly get something maybe at the beginning of the season, and then, of course, this is all luck-based at this point. So
Yeah, and with the San Jose Sharks' luck, Erik Karlsson's going to, trip stepping on the ice for game one or something.
Forgets to take the skate guard off.
Yeah, some shit like that, and then it's over, right? You have to do it this off season, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're risking a lot.
Yeah.
See, and this is the thing. The other thing is, because I've said it now, it's going to be fine, and they're going to get a massive haul from him at the deadline,
Mhm.
which great. But, based on what we know at this point, you have to make this trade now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the values, it's kind of the, what is it called? Buy low, sell high for
Yeah.
stocks or GameStop, whatever.
To the moon,
To the
baby.
moon. Yeah. Erik Karlsson to the moon. Anyways, we got a good show today. We got a couple topics, three of them today. First one, Alex Debrincat traded to Detroit.
Mhm.
Initial thoughts?
He was traded for Dominic Kubalik, a prospect defenseman, Donovan Sebrango, I think,
Mhm.
a conditional first round, and Detroit's fourth round in the 2024 draft.
Mhm.
I think this is pretty good. Kubalik looks like just moving rosters or maybe some cap room or whatever is needed.
Yeah.
I think the real value for Ottawa here is the prospect and the two picks.
Mhm.
So I think Ottawa's kind of in that space where you're just starting to compete. Maybe they're hoping for playoffs next year,
Yeah.
but they're not quite in that contender tier yet, right?
Yeah.
So I think picks still mean a lot. So this is a good trade. There were also kind of handicapped, in the way that everyone knew Debrincat wanted to go to Detroit, and that kind of killed all the leverage.
Yeah.
I would have expected at least one more first
Yeah.
to kind of balance this trade out a little bit. It's not bad, but it could have been better.
Did Debrincat say that out in public? Is that why they kind of lost that leverage?
I don't know if it was public, but I think Steve Yzerman knew, at least.
How did he know though?
Because, so in the way this was, it was Debrincat needed an extension, right?
Yeah.
Because he was an RFA. So they had to trade his rights and then get an extension to sign. But I think Debrincat told Ottawa that I'm only going to go to Detroit.
Can you do that? Oh, I thought he had like a no team or no trade team list or something like that.
I mean, yeah, you could trade him, but then if he's telling those other teams that, hey, I'm not going to sign an extension.
That's true. Yeah, there's no point. Yeah,
Then they'd give him why would we do this trade?
He was on the last year of his deal, I think, right?
Yeah, so he needed a new deal, and he did sign with Detroit a $7.875 million for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
which is he got his bag.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would have been longer, to be totally honest, like a 6-year deal at least. So kind of surprised. The term makes sense in my opinion, but I was thinking something along 6. I mean, they hand out 8 years like it's nothing nowadays, so maybe even that. But I don't know. It feels like somewhat of a bridge deal as well. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think this is the trend, right? You're seeing RFAs go for these kind of deals because what it does is it gives you a chance to get a second bag when you hit UFA, right?
Yeah.
So right now, I think this will take him to 1 year prior to UFA,
Mm-hmm.
which is a smart move on Yzerman's part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your options here are either you give them something like this, 3 or 4 years, so you get a couple RFA years left,
Yeah.
or you take the full max term,
Yeah.
right? So I don't think Yzerman wanted to commit max term right now, but so then you're seeing this kind of deal. You saw in Toronto, both Marner and Matthews had these types of deals, right?
Yeah.
Where they go close to UFA.
Mhm.
I think Matthews got right to UFA.
Yeah.
So that was really good on his part.
And a no movement clause this year.
Yeah, Matthews on his last contract negotiation really got it done.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
But yeah, I think this is pushing Detroit up in the tiers.
Mhm.
I just pulled up their cap friendly, right? So now you're looking at like a top line of Alex Debrincat and Dylan Larkin, and then maybe JT Compher, maybe Andrew Kopp, maybe David Perron.
Mhm.
You have some flexibility there. Maybe even Daniel Sprong, who they have now. So there's a lot of flexibility in the roster. Debrincat does play wing. He's not listed as a center.
Yeah.
So you could move JT Compher up to wing. You could have JT Compher as second line center.
Mhm.
So giving you some options here. And Detroit still has $8 million in cap space.
Yeah, that's honestly, I'm glad you brought that up because I like the way this rebuild has been going for Detroit. I mean, they were atrociously bad a couple years ago, and since then, Steve Yzerman has stepped in and taken over, and he did this with Tampa as well, where he didn't try to speed run this rebuild. He didn't try to let's hit the lottery or let's sign a couple of players. Let's at least make the first round. Kind of like how the Rangers did. They speed ran that rebuild, but ultimately it didn't get him too far. He's kind of taking the Tampa route and kind of going low and slow and very strategic, I guess you could say, in terms of picking players. And I think ultimately that's how you want to build not just a one and done championship team, but more something sustainable, a dynasty even possibly. I just still think there's going to be a couple years to get there, but it's definitely trending upwards, as you have said.
Yeah, and this is not even counting their ELCs, right? They got Lucas Raymond still there. They got Moritz Seider on an entry-level contract still. And they drafted, I forgot who they drafted this year, but they had a high pick this year as well.
Yeah.
So they're looking good mix of youth. They got some good veteran presence, and now they're filling in this like mid-tier of players who are kind of going into their primes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Debrincat's 25, Larkin is 26. So you're looking at players who are going to be good for a long time and a future-proof roster.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to point out is Yzerman is really building this team from defense out or goalie out, I should say. You got Ville Husso there, who's like going to be a star. It's playing really well. He brought in James Reimer to back him up, so that's just a backup role.
Mm-hmm.
I think he also brought in Alex Lyon from Florida.
Yes.
So he does have some buffer there in case Ville Husso has some issues, but he has enough goalie depth to kind of get through that. And then he's kind of stacked up on defensemen. I mentioned Moritz Seider.
Yeah.
Then he also brought in Justin Hall and Shane Gostisbehere, who can play second or third pair.
Yeah.
So, and he has Olli Mata as well. I didn't realize. Yeah. He has Olli Mata. Yeah. This is really good.
It's
on
a very
the defense.
balanced team. Yeah.
And especially for teams that are trying to move tiers, like from wild card to contender or from lottery to like wild card teams. I love it when I see the defense is stronger than the offense.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to get your offense.
Yeah.
In trades, signings, there's the most common position in the NHL is winger.
Yeah. I mean, we just talked about it a couple podcasts ago. Out of the first 10 picks, I'm pretty sure what like 8 of them were centers or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, offense is everywhere. It's easier to find like a lot of offensive power than it is to find that defensive power. So I'm kind of glad, as you have mentioned, that Steve Yzerman's kind of flipping that on his head and building it out from the goalie essentially, and then going to defense, then kind of filling out the offense with trades like this one.
Yeah, this is like a really well built team, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'll be excited to see what they do. I'm expecting them to be in the playoffs next year.
Wild card?
Yeah, I think they're fighting for a wild card. Maybe they sneak into that 3 division spot.
Yeah.
What division are they in? They're in the Atlantic, right?
Yes.
Ooh, that might be tough, actually. I'll say wild card.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll make the 3 spot.
I don't think Tampa's going away anytime soon, and Toronto and Boston's still there. So
yeah, and don't discount the Panthers.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
There's 4 teams. Yeah, I think they'll be in the fight for a wild card spot.
Yeah. All right. We can also move on to not necessarily a trade, but a 2-year extension for the Kings captain, Anze Kopitar. $7 million 2-year extension, no trade allowed, full no movement clause. I don't know. I think it's a good deal, but I thought it was going to be longer.
I'm glad they didn't do longer.
I think so?
This is a smart move from forward looking, right?
Yeah.
Kopitar's been there a long time. But with the acquisition of Pierre-Luc Dubois, you are clearly moving to a 1-2 center punch of Philippe Deneau and Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Neither one is Kopitar.
Yes.
Yet, I should say. They both have that potential.
Mm-hmm. In terms of what? Leadership, skill,
in terms
presence?
of being that number 1 offensive and defensive center, right? Like
Got it.
Kopitar kind of did everything for that team these last few years, right?
Right.
So I don't think either one of them can do both. Like Philip Zadina is known for being really, really good defensively. Pierre-Luc Dubois, though he hasn't quite shown it yet, can hit that next gear of like offensive productivity, right? So I think with the two of them, you can probably do Kopitar's job.
Yeah.
And then you have young guys like Quentin Byfield coming in. So LA's really shored up down the center.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about this is it gives you option to move Kopitar to the wing as he kind of slows down. So we see this with players, especially centers, as they kind of get older and start to not skate as well. They move them to the wing and reduce their defensive responsibilities, right? Like Joe Thornton did this.
I think Pavelski in Dallas.
Pavelski in Dallas, right? Yeah. So I could see Kopitar now playing on either Dino or Dubois' wing, and you can kind of have this presence for 2 years while you transition to this new core. I should say. I think that's a good way to put it, of transitioning to the new core.
So it really is kind of just a passing of the torch type of deal, you think?
That's what I think. And I think the full no movement clause like supports that in the sense, I'm not a fan of no movement clauses.
Yeah.
But this is someone who's been loyal to your team and it's only 2 years.
Yeah.
I think you owe it to him to say, hey, if we want to, want you to be here and mentor, then this is some protection we can give you.
Right.
We're not going to just dump you off at the deadline for someone.
Yeah.
Also, just to point out that this extension is, one, it does not start this season, starts next season. It's also a pay cut. He was getting 10 mil, and now he's going down to 7.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, like, in the case of, since I just brought him up, Joe Pavelski, he signed, or he wanted a 3-year deal. When he left San Jose, he wanted a 3-year deal, and that's essentially why he left. San Jose didn't want to give it to him. They thought, it could be a liability. He's signed another year after, or another deal after that 3-year contract. So clearly that was never a problem. But the difference between Anze Kopitar and Joe Pavelski is Joe Pavelski is still searching for his first cup, whereas Anze Kopitar is too, right? So I think it's a little bit different in that sense. I initially, when before we started recording, I was thinking maybe like a 3-year deal or something, and then kind of taper off the what do you call it, the cap hit per year, and then I don't really mind the full no movement clause, but I kind of understand. I think at this point how much he's done for this team in terms of leadership and just overall presence, and like he's won the franchise the only 2 cups they have. This might be also a little bit of like a loyalty deal at this point. I think he's going to retire a King.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely going to retire a King.
Yeah.
Dustin Brown got his number retired like almost right away after he retired, and Kopitar was on those teams with him, right?
Yeah.
So I think that trio of Brown, Kopitar, and Doughty, whenever he retires, they're going to mean a lot to the LA Kings. These are their first cups too.
Yeah.
So he absolutely should retire a King, and whatever they can do to make that happen. Also, I know you were saying 3 years deal, but because it starts after next season, it's kind of 3 years from this point.
Yeah.
So maybe they just want him around for those 3 years because he'll be 38 by then.
Shoot, yeah, you're right.
And then maybe just signs 1 year until he's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what his threshold is, I guess you could say. I don't know when, or I guess there's not really a threshold. It's also when he decides to call it a career for himself. But yeah, I don't know, like, what his plan is really. Is he do you think he's going to try to go for another cup either with LA, or like, is he going to try to like, have one last hurrah type of deal, or I don't know. What do you think the plan is like, or is he going to try to write off that 1-2 deal with Dino and Dubois?
I think for these next 3 years, LA has to go for it, right? Would you not count
go all in, go for it?
Yeah, would you not count LA as a cup contender right now?
I think they can make it deep in the playoffs. I just don't know if they're a cup contender yet. I don't know why.
I think they're looking like a cup contender to me, right? Like, let's just look at the Pacific Division. The best team in the Pacific right now is Vegas.
Yeah,
the reigning Golden Champs, right? Who's second, Edmonton or LA?
Probably. Well, I want to say Edmonton.
Are you sure about that?
I feel like it's Edmonton, isn't it? I mean, that might also be recency bias given the playoffs. I don't know. I want to say Edmonton, especially with it's hard to like write off McDavid and Draisaitl like that.
Yeah, but as a full team.
That's true. As a full team, yeah.
Don't you think LA...
They did upgrade this offseason. I don't think Edmonton has.
Yeah, Edmonton lost Yamamoto and Klim Kostin.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
LA got Dubois.
On paper, LA is going to probably be better this year, at least in the standings.
Yeah, LA got Dubois and Cam Talbot.
Yeah.
Like Edmonton, neither one of these teams has like a standout goalie.
Mhm.
Edmonton's hoping Stuart Skinner can figure it out.
Yeah.
Let me just look at Edmonton's cap friendly. Am I forgetting someone? Because right now, for me, LA is the second best team in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Edmonton added Connor Brown to replace some of that winger depth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not Pierre-Luc Dubois.
I was going to say, okay, shoot. Wow. I mean, yeah, obviously not saying that Vegas isn't going to be unanimously first again, but I don't know. LA does kind of have to go all in for it. Would they? I don't know. The reason I feel like they're not just there yet is because I feel like they just need one more big signing.
Maybe a certain Mr. Hellebuck.
Oh, shoot. Has he been signed yet?
Well, I mean, he's signed with Winnipeg. He needs to be traded.
Well, yeah. I mean, but he has like 1 year left on that deal, I thought.
Yeah, he has 1 year left at $6.1 million.
That's going to be... Do they have cap for that at that point? That's because he's going to ask for a pay raise.
Yeah.
So...
Well, Edmonton has 5.6 in cap space. They could make it work.
So you think... Oh, you think he's going to go to Edmonton? Or he's going to go to the Pacific in general?
There's a lot of teams that need a goalie right now. You want to do that conversation real quick?
Yeah.
Like LA can use a goalie.
Yeah.
Edmonton can use a goalie. Pittsburgh committed to Jari.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So Pittsburgh could use a goalie.
Yeah. Wow, roasting the man. I was going to say Hellebuck, but I just pulled up LA's cap space. LA's over the cap already by $700K. But still. They have any LTIRs? They don't right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Connor Hellebuck to LA isn't looking likely. But yeah, I guess getting sidetracked. But I think LA definitely has the opportunity to make a deep cup run. But for some reason, I'm just not fully convinced until I can get one more key signing. I don't know what that key signing is. I'm not a general manager.
What position do you think they need a signing?
Something in defense, because I don't know. Sure, Filip Zadina is a very defensive forward. And Anze Kopitar is like, no stranger to that himself. But I just don't, as Doughty ages too, will he be able to keep up, being that guy for at least for the next few years? I think after 3 years, he'll definitely be closer to 40 than he will be, 30 at this point.
Yeah, he is 33 right now.
Yeah. So 36, yeah, he'll be closer to 40 at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I'm looking at their defense. They got to probably bring up some people from the minors.
Yeah.
Just on their cap-friendly page, Kevin Connaughton and Jordan Spence are listed under their AHL roster, but I'm pretty sure they've both played NHL time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
should we trade Erik Karlsson for the 2014 Cup ring?
I don't think they'll take that trade.
No. They're pretty happy about that 3-0, that 3-0 lead.
Way to...
Why do I always do this to myself, man?
Way to bring up old wounds.
Anyways, Anze Kopitar, 2-year deal, $7 million cap hit. Pretty good deal. Pretty good passing the torch deal.
Yeah. The other deal that out in the Pacific is with our San Jose Sharks. Mm-hmm. They signed Filip Zadina, who was on Detroit's roster. But I think what's really interesting is this is like the ultimate bet on yourself deal from Zadina.
Mm-hmm.
So Zadina had 2 years left in Detroit. His contract was worth a total of $4.56 million remaining. Both sides agreed to a contract termination, which means he's not going to get paid that.
Mm-hmm.
He left $4.56 million on the table in Detroit, and ended up signing with San Jose $1.1 million for 1 year.
How much was he getting paid in Detroit?
4.56 divided by 2. $2.25 million a year.
Wait, so they decided his contract was going to be that just by slicing it in half? That wasn't just a...
No, that's the total value of his contract. So if he had played out those 2 years...
Oh, I see.
So his cap hit would have been half of that. Because
it
was 2 years. I don't know what the actual salary breakdown is.
Got it, okay.
But basically, Detroit told him he's going to be in the A. He's probably not fitting with their NHL plans.
Mm-hmm.
So his options were to play in the AHL and get this $5 million for doing that. Or
$5 million in the AHL is crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild, yeah.
Or to take a chance at an NHL job with some other team and hope to get moved at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
This just looks like what he did, and that other team ended up being San Jose.
Yeah, and I was reading an article right before this too. Like the the X factor, I guess you could say, is David Quinn. He had a good relationship and a good conversation with Filip Zadina, and I do think it's a very good deal for both sides because it's both kind of a what the hell do we have to lose type of deal. Filip Zadina's got something to prove to himself. San Jose is just trying to. I don't know. They're either trying to tank more or they're trying to make something of what they have right now. No idea what that is, but both sides got something to prove, and there's no risk at all in this deal. It's 1 year. It's not even. It's 1.5 million, and he was drafted 6th overall. I do think there is upside for this. The only issue, as as a biased Sharks fan, what if he has a great year and then all these teams are suddenly looking at him, and it's a 1 year deal, right? Like he moves on. Like, do you think this should have been a 2 year deal?
No.
Why?
Filip Zadina past season played 30 games for Detroit and only had 7 points. Okay. This is a 1 year, see what you got type deal.
Right, but it's only 1.1 cap hit, and it's not like we're over the cap or anything.
Yeah, but this is a cycle through players and see what sticks for San Jose, right? What are we looking at for San Jose here, right? Like, what kind of timeline are we looking at? So the gauge that I use for when will San Jose be starting to move up again is the Vlasic contract.
Yes, I agree.
Vlasic is signed for another 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So that means in 3 years, you kind of want to start looking at being competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's look at San Jose's forwards and who's signed on a 1 year, meaning who are we like kind of trying out, right? So, or I should say who has 1 year left. There is Kevin Labanc, Anthony Duclair, Alex Barabanov, Oscar Lindblom, Filip Zadina, and Jacob Pedersen, who are all signed until the end of next season.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of those, Filip Zadina is the youngest.
Yeah.
Tied with Jacob Pedersen. They're both 23. But Filip Zadina fits the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
If he works out well for San Jose and they keep him, he will be 26 in 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly where you want to be. That's kind of where 26 to like 32
is the prime.
Yeah, prime for hockey athletes, right? Versus Kevin Labanc is 27.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Duclair, 27. Alex Barabanov, 29. These guys aren't going to be around when San Jose is starting to get good again, right?
Yeah.
So this is why I like Zadina. My initial reaction was another one. We have so many of these guys.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
The rest of them are filler.
Yeah.
If Zadina turns out to be good and likes San Jose, he might want to stay.
So theoretically, if he does well, do you think like this is end up going to be turning into his team?
No. Well, actually, I shouldn't say no. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, because he's so young. That's the reason I bring it up.
Couture and Hurdle aren't going to be around, right?
No.
When the Sharks are good again.
No.
They're there for the transition phase.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at, is he going to be like Will Smith, who we just drafted?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be Filip Zadina? Who is the next wave of leaders? I don't know.
There's also Bordelot and Eklund and
Mario Ferraro.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But this guy was a 6th overall pick.
Yeah.
And for 1.1 million 1 year,
it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
No-brainer. Give him a shot.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see how this goes. He definitely had a lot of hype surrounding him. Obviously, if you're in the top 10, there is, a certain amount of hype surrounding you. But the reason it is a little bit concerning is, he hasn't lived up to those expectations. But sometimes all it takes is, a change in scenery. And, again, as I mentioned before, this is a what the hell does either side have to lose? I think there's potential for a high ROI, but I just don't want to like jinx it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think this is just one of those let's wait it out and let's see how it goes type of deal.
Yeah, and do you think the Sharks are going to be fun next year?
More fun than last year.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys I named, it's basically tryouts all season, right?
Yeah, which is
who's going to stick around or who's going to get moved to a contender.
Yeah.
So this is going to be run and gun offense, isn't it?
This might be like an inflection point for the rebuild, if you want to call it that. Obviously there's still with the Carlson debacle and the Vlasic contract and stuff like that. There's still a ways to go, but I do think this is the worst of what we experienced might have been last season, especially if we have play like signings like this. Obviously, Duclair we got for I don't know. I think we kind of low key fleeced Florida for that. So I think if we're getting these types of players who have potentially high ROIs for cheap deals, I think it's a win for what we have right now.
Since 2020, I think this is the first year I can see Sharks players playing for something.
Yeah.
I felt like the team's just been coasting for 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the team got like handed these huge contracts, no movement clauses.
Yeah, and
they had nothing to nothing to play for.
They were nowhere close to making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they knew that like almost a month into the season.
Yeah.
So there was no drive, right?
Yeah.
At least now some of these players have a drive for something, right?
Yeah.
To stick in the NHL, to get a long-term deal, to get traded to a contender.
Mm-hmm. They're going to play for something.
For something, right?
Yeah.
So that means we're going to see some passion on the ice, I hope.
Yeah. And as we've seen with teams like the 2018 Vegas squad or even Seattle last year, heart matters a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
When the Sharks are good again, they're going to remember these days. These are the days heart is built.
Yeah, exactly. This is... in terms of like, when I say inflection point, I don't just mean, okay, we're not going to suck as much anymore. I also mean the actual team identity is changing.
You have to build it now.
Yeah, it's changing now. Like the culture you want to establish in San Jose, you gotta do it now.
And you know what I would love to see? I would love to see Couture and Hurdle's ice time drop.
Really?
Yeah, because I want to see these young guys play for something. So I'm not saying like drop drastically, right?
Yeah.
But if you take all 4 lines and you split them evenly, 15 minutes a night, I'm great with that.
The reason I say why to that is because these players, have something to prove. Wouldn't you think Couture and Hurdle like would help them out in terms of confidence and give them like the fillers they need? Not the fillers they need, but help them out on the ice where they need the assistance they need. To like, thrive and be a better player for your organization?
Yeah. I should say what I don't want is you to slap Couture and Hurdle on a line together with like Barabanov and just run that line for 30 minutes a night.
Oh, the Connor McDavid method.
Yeah, I don't want that because they're your only veteran player and then you just let the rest of them pick up the scraps, right?
Got it.
Give them the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not playing for shit anyway.
I mean, the thing is, Filip Zadina signed in San Jose because he had this great relationship with not Quinn Hughes, David Quinn.
I hope it was Quinn Hughes.
with David Quinn. I do think that's going to, like, not saying there's bias or anything. Obviously, if he doesn't do well, he doesn't do well. But I do think that's going to help give him the opportunity to, like, at least have the opportunity to break out and have this, monster season potentially.
Yeah, and not just Zadina, right? I want to see that for Duclair.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if LeBank's got anything left in him.
Yeah. He's looking for a new contract this year, right?
Yeah, and the past 2 years have not been good for him.
Invisible.
Yeah.
And I honestly wasn't sure if he was still on the team or not. So
honestly, the best case scenario there is he puts up a pretty good offensive season and we push him off
at the deadline.
Yeah, that'd be the best case scenario because I don't think he's re-signing here.
Yeah, I don't think he should either.
Yeah, so this is a chance to have some heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, heart matters, right?
Yeah.
Does Vegas win the cup this year if they don't have that Misfits run in 2018?
No, of course not.
Does Tampa win if they don't have the 2015 and 2019 heartbreaks?
No. You could argue the reason Chicago kept that dynasty around for so long is go look at the West Finals. Yeah. Chicago was always in it for some reason.
Yeah.
So that could have easily been 5 cups in a row. Who knows?
Does Crosby become Crosby without that first loss to Detroit?
Oh yeah, heartbreaking. And then it comes back next year, proves himself. That's a champion right there. Yeah.
The days you struggle are what makes championship teams.
Yeah. Dang.
So
that's the one.
We've had to struggle.
Yeah.
Now we got to see if it was worth it.
Yeah.
We got to start building, and it starts now.
I wouldn't say say it's not just about is it worth it, but who wants to play for this team? I think it's one of those, it can be easy to just, we're not Toronto. We're not Tampa, we're not New York Rangers. Everyone wants to play for those teams. The two of them are original 6 teams. Tampa is obviously Tampa. They've done some stellar things in the past couple of years. We have nothing to prove, but that's how a team is built. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how Pittsburgh was on the verge of getting sold to Kansas or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin saved that franchise. And now they have one of the biggest bandwagon fan bases I've ever seen.
Wow. All right. Pittsburgh catching strays.
Sorry. But yeah, this is how a team is built, or this is how a franchise, this is how a culture is built. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And Can't say it better than that.
Yeah.
You got anything else for today's episode, man?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously we'll keep an eye out on the Erik Karlsson signing and see what else comes of it.
Karlsson watch 2023.
But I'm excited to see the Sharks this year. I'm excited to see the Pacific this year. I'm not gonna lie. The Pacific's actually gonna seem like competitive again. The Ducks got Leo Carlsson as well. So
all of last year we heard how the East was so much better than the West.
We know.
And then Pacific won the cup though. So
yeah, but that was a lot of people wrote off Vegas, and I would say us too, to an extent. And then because once they got past Edmonton, everyone was like, "Oh shoot, Vegas might actually win this whole thing." So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm actually excited to see the Pacific this year.
Oh yeah, I think LA versus Edmonton is going to be a rivalry for a few more years.
Yeah. Let's see if Seattle has some dog in the fight too.
We didn't even get to Seattle.
Yeah,
Seattle could throw a wrench in the works.
Yeah, pick up Connor Hellebuyck. Who knows? I don't know.
Ooh, yeah, that's an upgrade.
Yeah,
Philip Grubauer and Martin Jones to Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, that would be game changer for sure.
All right, we'll keep it tuned here. There'll be more signings throughout the offseason, and as news slows down, maybe we'll go on some other topics.
Yes,
talk
sir.
about some rants and what we love about the NHL, what we hate about the NHL, whatever we want to do. This is our show.
Of
We can
course.
do what we want.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Glass Seats. We're out every week. You can catch us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. We are also now on YouTube. At Spud Network Podcast is the handle. So keep it tuned, keep it listening, and we'll see you next episode. See ya.
Peace.